When crafters learn that scrapbooking is my day job, the inevitable series of questions happens pretty much every time. Does that mean you scrapbook every day? Well, not every day, but certainly most of them. Doesn't it get boring? Don't you run out of things to scrapbook? Don't all the supplies and techniques just run together? And my answer to those is certainly no. Scrapbooking doesn't get boring if you still enjoy what you're creating. I don't run out of things to scrapbook because I look for more stories to tell than might be obvious at first. And with that many stories, a surplus of supplies and techniques can always come in handy. So no, I don't just scrapbook weddings and graduations and big events. I scrapbook the everyday. But calling it the everyday sells it short. In truth, paths are followed, characters are developed, and decisions are made, all in the everyday of life. You don't get to a wedding without the love story, or the graduation without the years of study. So I don't just scrapbook the everyday. I scrapbook the everyday adventure. That doesn't mean my life is more exciting than anyone else's day-to-day journey. It really isn't. I sit at a computer and type. I do laundry and I walk to the post office. I glue bits of paper to other bits of paper and I hope I can do so in an aesthetically pleasing manner. But I've made a conscious decision to look at everything, even the most mundane of activities, as something that has meaning, to give whimsy to things that can be plain, and to mix things up just enough so that my day never becomes entirely routine. With that in mind, I'd love to share just 5 ways you can turn every day into a scrapbooking adventure. For that very first step, go to your computer, sign into an online photo printer, and print an entire folder of photographs. Sure, you can delete the terrible mistakes like completely blurred shots and duplicates if you wish, but don't just pick 5 or so favorites. Print the lot. Try it once. When the prints arrive, find a place where they can live while they wait to be scrapbooked. Make it somewhere easy to access, so when you open that drawer, that box, it's exciting and it makes you want to flip through the entire stack of photos. Instead of feeling like you can only scrapbook your absolute favorites, just try leafing through the pictures and seeing what inspires you on that particular day, or choose them at random. Don't even look, just pull a photo and go. Give this process a try and see how it works for you. Know that you can go straight to scrapbooking without needing to turn on your computer and print something because your photos are already there. Keep just that one chosen folder as your printed library if you like. Or if these prints give you a new freedom, consider printing more full folders more often. Remember, there's no pressure to scrapbook everything you've printed. No one in the scrapbooking world is ever going to tell you that every photo you've ever taken should be scrapbooked. It's something nobody needs to worry about. If we're worrying about it, we're making it up ourselves. There are boxes and boxes and boxes of photos in this world that will never be scrapbooked, and that does not mean that those photos have no value. So just let that idea go. Open the drawer, see your pictures, and know that they have value in that form too, and yet they are ready, like the rest of your supplies, to help you create something on any day that you fancy. Speaking of supplies, there is a thought I see more and more recently. When we start a new craft, all the supplies seem new and exciting and full of potential. After we learn to use all those tools, then new supplies don't seem to have quite the thrill. Paper? I've seen that before. Stickers? They still work like the others did. Paint? What's the big deal? I've been using that since play school. And that's all true. It's hard to completely innovate a standard set of pretty simple supplies like what we use on our scrapbook pages. The problem is not the products. The problem is the perception. Okay, so paper is paper, but what have you done with that paper lately? Use the whole patterned paper sheet as a background, cut it into blocks? Forget about how you usually use paper and try something different. Look up how to fold a paper crane on an origami website for starters. Have you done that on a scrapbook page recently? If paint dabbers are just for dabbing with the sponge tops and glimmer mists are just for spraying mist over the page, then why is my favorite technique lately involving mixing the two together in a teacup and adding it to the page with a paintbrush? I once sat next to a friend who has this amazingly unique scrapbook style, and I watched her create a page at a crop. She didn't start with the background paper. She had a photo and a title in mind, and from there came the embellishment and then the journaling. She just started there and created the page from the middle out to the edge, and choosing her background paper was the very last thing she did, rather than the first. This blew my mind, and once I had recovered from that, I tried it, and it completely freed the way I created. Something so very simple Forget how supplies are supposed to be used and just give something a try. Don't do it every time in exactly the same way. Paint onto a page without knowing what it will become. That's okay. Grab some stickers and die cuts and put together a little composition that you can put on a layout later, instead of starting with the layout and then creating that embellishment. You don't even need to know what the layout's going to be about yet. It will all fall into place. Just start and the other questions will be answered. It's all part of the adventure. Then there are days you need to find the adventure in your memory. Take a look at something you see every single day. Then think back to all the stories that are in some way connected to that simple object. I can look at that first cup of coffee in the morning and I could make a list of stories to tell, like the story behind all the different coffee mugs in my cupboard, or the time we spent studying for our coffee making qualifications even though we only make coffee for ourselves, or the day of panic when I filled out a Starbucks job application because I was convinced I was going to lose my job, or the day I bought my grandpa an eggnog latte, or how I ordered a bunch of flavored syrups thinking they were really small bottles only to have them arrive and be full restaurant size and there was no way we could ever use them all nor fit them in a cupboard. Or how in high school I would meet up with friends at the 24-hour diner really late at night and order a bottomless cup of coffee and then proceed to add more sugar than I can even contemplate as a grown-up. Or the look on my face when a doctor told me I had to give up caffeine and the subsequent battle that saw me go several weeks of early morning lectures half asleep and without combing my hair. Or the time I was waiting for my coffee and realized the guy next to me in the queue was an actual real-life rock star. And so it goes. Everyday objects hold far more stories than you might want to admit. The trick is in letting those memories flow together through a common denominator. There's no particular topic that needs to be written down or scrapbooked at a particular time. So if today doesn't seem particularly interesting, think back to something else that strikes a chord. Life has a way of seeming unimportant in the present. I never once thought that sitting in a diner at 1 o'clock in the morning was key to my personality when it was something present in my life. Years later, and I don't do that anymore, now I can see how that was part of my personality. I was being more creative as a night owl than an early bird. I liked a balance of familiar faces and new friends rather than entirely one or the other. And even I have a belief that it's important to tip your waitress a lot even if you don't order very much. All that from looking at a coffee cup. Everything that surrounds you in your everyday life tells a story of some kind. It's just up to you to think back and find that particular memory that needs to be written down. Part of what makes the everyday seem less exciting is the fact that those surroundings don't often change. That cup of coffee might even be in the same cup every morning. How can the same cup, the same table, the same hallway continue to inspire you day after day? If it starts to feel stale, go somewhere else and you'll come to appreciate it more. And although I like to think that I like to take it to an extreme and go far, far away from time to time, that's really not what I mean at all. I mean, take your creative gear and walk away from the place where it lives. Instead of being overwhelmed by the choice of supplies that you've collected over the years, pack up something small and easy to carry. I keep a lunchbox with a set of basic tools ready to go at all times. It has pens and scissors and adhesive and ink and a few other things that just get stuck there from time to time. I might clean up my desk and put a handful of embellishments in the lunchbox rather than back to where they really belong. I love my creative space at home and the freedom to obliterate my table with crafty shrapnel, and that's usually how I have the most fun. But every once in a while, the spontaneity wins out, or I'd be stuck indoors on a beautiful day. I can pick up the basics for a page, grab my lunchbox and a blanket, and head to the park and scrapbook in the sunshine. I usually like the quiet of creating my own, but sometimes I would prefer something more social. So a few sets of photos and sheets of paper, plus the lunchbox, and then I can meet a crafty friend for an afternoon on a picnic bench in a coffee shop. Sometimes it even means just moving to another spot in the same house. One year I made all my Christmas journal pages at my coffee table, for no other reason than I made page 1 there, and it just seemed to work. Changing locations means you have to work within what you can reach. No big decisions or being overwhelmed by the dozen different green pattern papers you could use. Instead, you have to make do with whatever you did bring and make it work in the best possible way. If you opt to craft in public, you may also have the fun of others asking you what you're doing, and you can choose your own adventure in your response. Tell a stranger about scrapbooking and why it's amazing. Give a more generic response about crafting. Claim it's your art homework for a night class, or if you're really feeling shy, pretend you don't speak the language. The choice is totally yours, and you'll return to your regular space, no matter what that may be, with a new appreciation of why it works for you. And above all, make sure you think of scrapbooking in the most constructive of ways for you. Scrapbookers constantly berate their own hobby. It's not the first thing they admit about themselves, and many people keep it a secret to all but their nearest and dearest. When we do this, we perpetuate the stereotype that scrapbooking is nothing more than stickers and glue. I know it's more than that, and I'm pretty sure that you do too. First, know there's nothing wrong with having a hobby. Whatever it may be, our hobbies and interests are what make each of us happy and celebrate what we enjoy. I don't care if your hobby is scrapbooking, playing video games, or teaching sea monkeys to jump over the toaster. If it's what you enjoy with your free time, then it's completely right for you. You don't need to make any excuses. To be specific about scrapbooking, though, there are so many benefits we don't often remember. We take more photos than the average person, and photography has always been a respectable pastime. We keep a journal of our life story, which means we are writers. Those are two things combined that make for some pretty big opportunities. Journals with honest points of view help tell some of the most memorable stories in the world, and scrapbooking is exactly that. I mean, I get it. Anne Frank did not have coordinated collections of patterned paper and a digital camera. Obviously. But she wrote down what was happening, and because she did, we can learn from her experience. The same goes for any type of scrapbook wherein you write your personal narrative. Keeping a record of your life or your family's lives makes you more aware. You can learn and grow from what you experience because you're taking note of it. That doesn't require pretty embellishments, but if you enjoy them, then why not? My biggest dream for scrapbooking is the day when people are very proud to say they scrapbook because they know what they enjoy doing for fun has these added benefits of telling a story that no one else is going to tell. That by reflecting on memories, by scrapbooking older photos, we will acknowledge that this hobby is more than just pretty paper and stickers. Scrapbooking with intent can make you creatively free while helping you strive for your best personal experience in life. And that is exactly why I feel that every day can be an adventure. May your adventure take you somewhere very happy.